Hey guys, welcome back. It's been a little while. Um, yeah, okay, since the last episode, what have I been up to? I have gone to Copenhagen with my family. I've graduated university. I've started a PhD at Oxford. I've moved from London to Oxford. And I relocated to a new dorm room. Hence the new change in backdrop. But alongside that, I've been doing a little bit of knitting. Not as much as I typically do, so there'll be fewer finished objects, but yeah, some interesting ones and some interesting whips. This is my podcast episode for, I guess, all of September and like half of October. Anyways, let's start with what I'm wearing. I'm wearing my rendition of petiteknit's Marseille sweater. The sweater pattern that petiteknit created is a striped sweater pattern where you alternate two colors of yarn. But instead of doing that, I use like one self-striping sock yarn, which was the schoppel crazy zauberball yarn, I think it is. And I held it with a silk mohair. So like you have all of these color variations and stripes that aren't caused by alternating colors. And I love the construction of this sweater and the fit of this sweater. It's super drapey and like perfectly relaxed, but not oversized. The only thing that's a little bit weird is that it's a provisional cast on for the neckline, which is a little bit unnecessary, but that's the only thing. And yeah, this is one of my most worn sweaters and people always compliment me on it, and I get that like gratifying feeling when I say I made it. But yeah, okay, so let's hop into the finished objects, I guess. Okay, this setup I have is a bit chaotic. I've got kind of a lot of stuff to show. Not all of it is knitting related, or like not all of it is knitted, but a lot of it is like tangentially related to knitting. But yeah, whatever. So the first finished object I have are these. I think I spoke about this in my first podcast episode, but they're my Hanan Bonnet inspired socks. So I've got a 2x2 rib cuff and then a waffle stitch sock and then a slip stitch heeling gusset, and then yeah, and then I think this is just a wedge toe. I basically followed Handmade by Florence's mountain walk socks, and I just changed the cable repeat to this waffle stitch, and I think it turned out really well. This is the matching pair. Except when I blocked these socks, they kind of blocked out to be different sizes, and I don't really know why. But anyways, socks. Let me just give you a little bit of a try on. These fit super well. I love this heel construction. I don't know, yeah, I haven't tried any other heel constructions, but this one gives the most like similar to a normal sock, I would think. Cool, right? Yeah, okay, so that's my first finished object. And I think I only have one other finished object. I have some whips that are pretty close to completion, but not quite complete yet. And in fact, this next finished object isn't technically a finished object because I haven't weaved in any of the ends. But, okay. This is her. This is, once again, my rendition of the tuvasandok genser, 2, I think, which is a chunky off the shoulder sweater, and it has thick 2x2 ribbed neckline and like a waistband. Everything that I talk about will be linked in the description with the colors of the yarn as well. Yeah, but anyways, I mentioned briefly in my last video that that neckline was like pissing me off because the 2x2 rib that I did, this entire episode is me struggling with my bind offs, and I don't really know why, but I did a 2x2 like neckline, and I bound off using a 2x2 Italian bind off, which is usually what I do because I feel like it looks really clean. But I think I bind off really tight because this cinched in so much that it just became a crew neck. So I cut off the neckline and I redid it. On my second try, I decided I think this would look really cute if I did a double knitted collar and did like the corresponding double knitted sleeve band like that. But I did it on, I think I did it on 5.5mm needles, and the rest of the body is worked in 7mm needles, so I thought it would cinch it in like the right amount, and I sized up from what I did the neckline in, so it wouldn't be too tight. Way too loose. It like was not off the shoulder, it was just off. But yeah, third time the charm. I did it on 4mm needles, I think, and I think that looks pretty cute. And the sleeves are exactly the same. So this is what I mean by it still being a whip, but that's basically finished in my eyes. I will give us a little bit of a try on. Sorry for the shambolic setup. Let me just try this on. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So this is her. She is like perfectly off the shoulder. I think it's like appropriately dainty as well. I don't know. I think also partly why I chose to change to 2x2 ribbing instead of change to double knitting instead of 2x2 ribbing is because it just looked a bit off, like it was too bulky on the top, so I just changed it, and I think that looks a lot like more sophisticated, I don't know. And then I knit the sleeves nice and long as well. Yeah, cute. The only thing is I don't want it to expand drastically when I block it, and I heard that if you block drops air in like hotter water, it also shrinks the polyamide in the yarn. So I'm gonna try blocking it in like lukewarm water because I don't mind if it shrinks a tiny bit. I just definitely don't want it to expand like crazy amounts because otherwise, once again, we'll run into the same off the shoulder issue, being just an off sweater. But for now, the fit is pretty perfect. I want to keep it as is post blocking. But also, I didn't do a gauge swatch, and this is why people do gauge swatches. That's just not my life. But yeah, I'm super happy with this sweater, and I'm really happy with my modifications and choices as well. I do have almost one entire skein of drops air. I don't think this will make a pair of shorts, but I was planning on making a pair of matching shorts. I might try and see how far I get, and if I lose yarn chicken, then I'll order more, because I think that would be really cute with the corresponding like double knitted waistband of the shorts. Okay, cool. Okay, let's move on to whips. My first whip is almost done. This is my Sevilla blouse. This is her. Yeah, so yeah, it's basically done. But if you guys remember from my previous episodes, I just briefly spoke about how I wanted to do a little bit of slip stitch crochet along the yoke of the top. That still holds true. Like, the only things that I need to do to this is block the entire thing, decide what neckline I want to do, but before doing that, I'm going to do the slip stitch crochet, and then I'll either crochet, like slip stitch the neckline, or I'll do a stockinette neckline, depending on what I think looks better with the crochet embroidery. Remember how earlier I was talking about having all of these problems with bind-offs? This is another one where I had another issue with bind-offs and bind-offs being too tight. So this is the progress that I've made. I'm not sure how far I was in my last podcast episode, but yeah, definitely significantly further. So sleeves are done. I didn't do anything special to the sleeves. I literally knitted a straight tube. Didn't even do anything to the cuff. I did a regular cast off. No decreases. The neckline is perfectly boat neck, I think. And then I'm really happy with the amount of stitches I decreased for the waist as well. Okay, so the issue that I was having with my bind off for this top was I knitted my yoke in accordance with petiteknit's pattern. I decreased 60 stitches over 2 rounds, I think, just like completely intermittently. And then I swapped to 1x1 rib. And then I bound off 1x1 rib Italian bind off. Guess what frickin' happened? Too tight. Can't get it over my head. So I ripped off the bind off, and instead I settled on a picot bind off, which, let me just show. So it's not blocked, so it's kind of flaring up, but this is my bind off. I don't know whether you can see that. It's black, so I guess it isn't showing up too well. But yeah, the bottom waistband is like a 1x1 rib, and then this is the picot edge. And I did that just by yarning over, knitting 2 together, yarning over, knitting 2 together, and then knitting a bit of stockinette, and then Judy's surprisingly stretchy cast off back again onto the stitches. That's a really bad explanation, but there's loads of tutorials on YouTube. So yeah, not too far to go with this, and you'll see this again very soon with some embroidery on it. Okay. My second to last whip is a pair of socks. Not much to say for these. These are a pair of freehand socks. I'm alternating 2 colors of isager sock yarn. Oh, I should have mentioned, these socks are also isager sock yarn. But yeah, those were, I think, yarn acquisitions in my last podcast episode. But yeah, for this sock, I'm just alternating between 2 rounds of orange and 1 round of blue, and then I did a contrast stitch heel, and then it'll have a contrast stitch toe as well. Okay, this is another thing that was like causing me issues as well, and another thing that I restarted. Initially, I cast on 68 stitches, I think, and I did a 2x2 rib, like folded cuff. And then I knitted down and I made these like thick ass stripes. But it was really baggy for some reason. I'm usually, for these, I cast on 64 stitches and it fits perfectly. And I thought this is going to be a stockinette sock without any rib, so I should probably add some more stitches. Counterintuitively, it was the opposite. I decreased 4 stitches instead of adding 4 stitches. So instead of casting on 68, I cast on 60, and that fits a lot better. Yeah, so this is just a rolled edge. I knitted, I think, 4 rounds of orange to begin with, so that it just like rolls completely orange, and then stripes, slip stitch, heeling gusset, and then continued. So you can kind of see that there's a crease here, and that's because I'm carrying my floats for my stripes so that I don't have to weave in a bunch of ends. But something that I find with magic loop, I don't know whether this is because I don't knit in magic loop a lot, but sometimes I get ladders, and in order to like reduce the amount of ladders that I have, I usually pull my yarn really tight at the beginning and end stitches of each like needle. Because I'm catching floats, that causes issues with the tension of the floats. I think this will just like come with time. But yeah, that's my explanation, and I'm not too mad about it. I think it's like my first time doing somewhat color work knitting, so yeah, it's just a learning curve, and I don't really mind too much. I'll give this a little bit of a try on, but you will see my toes. It looks like this. I don't know why I'm covering my toes like that, but yeah. Cool. Okay, and then my final whip is the one that I'm doing with my sister, which is the Pippa by Marielenatricot, I think. We were knitting on this a lot when we went to Copenhagen, so we got a decent chunk of the body down. We've got a little bit of an open slit for the button band, and we did the neckline. I'm not really too happy with this neckline, and I probably will end up redoing it. Okay, I didn't try that on, and it doesn't fit over my head. I don't know what I'm doing wrong with my bind offs. Everything like that is remotely tight just doesn't fit over my head for some reason. I think I'm gonna change this to a double knit button band because this literally has no give to it. I don't know what I did, but yeah, it doesn't fit over my head, which I think makes like the 5th time that my bind off has gone wrong in this episode. Anyways, I'm throwing that to the side. Okay. I actually have a lot of yarn acquisition. Well, actually not just yarn acquisitions, but just like general acquisitions that are knitting related, that I kind of want to talk about. So, I think first and foremost, okay, let's talk yarn. So the couple things that I've bought over the past month, I think the first thing that I bought was some more Drops Air. I really enjoyed working on it for the Sandok genser, and yeah, it just left a really comfortable, lightweight sweater, and I wanted another sweater in Drops Air. I picked up 2 colors, blue and brown, a sweater's quantity worth. I don't know whether I made the right color choice, but I'm planning to make an Olga sweater with this. So the Olga sweater is a petite knit pattern that's striped. These are a little bit low contrast for my liking. I would have liked if the brown was slightly darker. The blue is perfect. The brown could have done with a touch more darkness. But yeah, I'm probably going to cast this on tonight, and I'm going to see how the stripes look like after knitting on it for a while. One thing that I've seen on Instagram that's so cool, I forget the name of the creator who did this. I think it's Alice Brown Creations, but I'll double check. There's this person on Instagram who like felts a bunch of stuff, felts like thrifted sweaters and, you know, thrifted scarves. I really, really want to try that on one of my sweaters. And I'm thinking maybe if this is really low contrast, I can add a little bit of this and felt it on and add some sort of creature onto there. I don't know, throwing ideas out there. But I'm gonna cast this on tonight, so hopefully you should see a little bit of progress by the next episode. The other yarn that I bought was some more Drops Daisy because I lost yarn chicken for my Sevilla blouse, and I want to film a video for the headband that I wore in my previous video, this headband here as a reminder. It's just a really, really simple like stockinette tube essentially that I've Kitchener stitched together, and like it's just a basic headband. So I'm thinking I'm gonna film a YouTube video that will just go up for anyone to use because it should be like a super, super easy beginner's tutorial. It only takes one skein. It's good for scrap yarn and it can be done at any gauge basically. This will be the one and only time that I will do a gauge swatch, because I want this to kind of be a pattern that I release that you can use up one skein of any yarn you have, and you can just make it like you can calculate how many stitches you need according to the yarn weight you have. So yeah, this will be kind of split between my headband and my embroidery for the blouse. And the final piece of yarn that I have is this. So I went to Knit and Stitch, I think it's called, in Alexandra Palace over the weekend, and that was so cool to see so many people just like geek out on fiber crafts. I treated myself to a sock yarn. This is a hand-dyed sock yarn. It's actually really similar to the colors that I have in my Marseille sweater, but this feels super nice. I think it's 10% cashmere, 80% merino, and then 10% nylon. I did ask the person like how hardy this was, and she said it's hardy, but it kind of feels really, really soft. So this might be a home sock yarn. But yeah, it's super, super pretty. And this is the brand, if anyone's interested. Debonnaire. Yeah, and it's in the color Treetops, which is cute. This will also be casted on probably very shortly. Okay, so I think that's everything like to do with knitting. Everything now is knitting related or knitting adjacent. I think the first most important thing that I should talk about is the shoes that I ended up buying. Thank you for everyone who commented on my last video. I'm sorry that I didn't listen to anybody. I bought a pair off of Amazon. These are my clogs. They're super comfortable. They're Lakeland Active shoes from Amazon. They were like £12, and I think they look pretty good with knitted socks. Ooh. How do we feel? Yeah? The girls who get it, get it. The ones that don't. Yeah, they are kind of clownish nurse shoes, but I think they're really cute and they're really comfortable. And yeah, waterproof, which is good for Oxford weather. Okay, the other things are also really random. Okay, let me get the knitting stuff out of the way. I bought a pair of sock blockers for my sock knitting journey. These are from Lynn Hobby. They worked well. I don't know why my yellow socks blocked to be slightly different sizes, but I won't blame it on the sock blockers and I'll blame it on myself. And also similarly, like with the sock knitting journey, I've heard, like from my last video, people seemed to think, well, it was like a 50-50 split of mini circular to magic loop enjoyers. I just decided to give it a shot myself. I did a couple rounds of these socks on this needle set. I didn't love it. I didn't really know where to place my pinkies, but I'm gonna give it another go with this, which I think is just gonna be a plain stockinette sock so that you can see the color variations. And maybe that will lend itself quite nicely to these mini circulars. Also, maybe I'll try again on the corresponding pair of these because, you know, what I was saying about like the catching my floats and having my tension be a real issue. Maybe this will solve that. Okay, I'm wrapping up. The last thing that I wanted to show is the most silly. Bear with me. I bought a clock and I think this is so cool and no one gets geeked out on this as much as I have. The amount of people that I've told that I've bought a vintage IKEA clock and no one's had any reaction. Look how cute it is. And the reason why it's included in the end of this video is it opens and this is where I'm storing my yarn. So my yarn is stored in a vintage IKEA clock that also doubles as a shelf. Yeah, pretty sick, huh? Okay, that's all. That's all I wanted to share. Bye, guys.